Hey, what's going on? This is Ed Fletcher, and as you can see, the statue of John Sutter is once again clean and restored after it was vandalized earlier this week, I believe yesterday. You can see some of the paint on the bushes and bark there. If you've been following, you will recall that this John Sutter, who is an icon of Sacramento, and of course known for Sutter's Fort. But there is differing stories about the actual character of one John Sutter, and like most statues, it sort of depends on who is writing the history. So this statue here, let's go and look at the plaque here. General John A. Sutter, February 15, 1803 to June 18, 1880, Swiss immigrant, founder of the New Helvetica, beginning of Sacramento, builder of Sutter's Fort, man of vision and compassion who deserves respect and gratitude of Americans and Swiss, donated by the people of Switzerland, Swiss Americans, and friends. So, as you can see there, this wasn't funded by the city. This is funded by people who liked John Sutter. And of course, if you make the plaque, you get to write the plaque. And the plaque does not mention any of the offending things about John Sutter. So we're gonna walk across the street there and go visit the outside of Sutter's Fort as we talk a little bit more about John Sutter. And again, if you're just following this, the statue of John Sutter was vandalized with red paint poured across it, and it's fitting of a trend in which lots of statues of questionable men have been either damaged or taken down as this kind of racial awakening happens in California. So I went to the Wikipedia to kind of get a little more familiar with John Sutter, and having grown up in the area, of course I've heard of John Sutter, and this is the Sutter Medical Center. You've also got Sutter Middle School and Sutter, there's lots of Sutter things around here. So John Sutter, born in Germany, became a Swiss, and came to what is now California within a Mexican territory, and became a Mexican citizen so that he could be granted this land. And he got 140,000 acres of land granted to him because after he created this fort here to stake their claim and defend the land from other nationalities that wanted to this land as well. And of course, we Sacramentans know that his employee, James Marshall, discovered gold in Coloma, which then set off the gold rush of 1849. You can get most of the way through the Wikipedia page before it mentions anything bad about John Sutter. But it does mention that some of the volunteers were subjected to varying degrees of coercion that resembled slavery. And this is a Wikipedia page, and I'm sure it's highly debated and discussed, and people fought over those wordings there. They mentioned that Sutter believed that Native Americans needed to be kept strictly under control and threat and fear so that they would work hard. The employees slept on bare floors with rooms and locked in rooms with no sanitation, and he often responded with violence when Native Americans didn't want to work with him. Local author Dave Krzauk, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, puts it more bluntly. He calls him a slave trader, murderous, a pimp, pedophile, and a drunk, and points out that Native American skulls were on these spikes as to scare other Native Americans about what would happen to them if they didn't work with John Sutter. I have seen no discussion on the Sutter Health Instagram page about Black Lives Matter. Darla, come on. About Black Lives Matter or about the John Sutter controversy. It will be interesting to see whether or not this conversation moves closer to home. There are many communities around the country that have removed the names of slave traders from city landmarks. In Sacramento, we Darla, come on. We moved to remove the name Gady from Gady Park and Gady Elementary, but there is still, I believe there's a Gady Road. But Sacramento has done little to talk about the life and history of John Sutter and whether or not he is worthy of the level of acclaim, or whether we need to tell a little more truth about John Sutter. Unfortunately, Sutter's Fort is closed right now during the pandemic, but it is it always has been an interesting place to view, but it makes you wonder how much history they're leaving out as they talk about those things. What to do about the statue is an interesting question. I know that some people suggest leaving them up and just putting more information on the plaque, and that's one solution. I know others have said that that doesn't go far enough, and they'd like to see the statues of slave traders and men of questionable character, perhaps in a museum, but not out on the public square for everybody to see. But at minimum, we should be discussing the lives of these men as they actually are, and not as we simply want them to be. All right, I'm going to end it here. Quick programming note. I'm going to be talking to Tanya Faison of Black Lives Matter Sacramento at 3:05. So tune in for that. We'll be publishing that live on Facebook as well as Twitter and through the Periscope app. So I hope you'll check that out. We'll be talking about defund the police, the Sacramento protests, and where we go from here. And I'm looking forward to that conversation. All right, thanks a lot. Please post your thoughts about what we should be doing about John Sutter and whether or not you think that the statue should be removed. I'd love to hear your comments. And I'd also love to hear your thoughts about Sutter Health and whether or not they should be considering renaming their institution. All right, that's it for now. Thanks a lot. This is Ed Fletcher, independent journalist, trying to do my thing. I'm on Patreon if you want to support me. Thanks a lot.